Our walking tour was with a company called Bulldog Tours, and before we began our tour, I had the chance to sit down with John Laverne, the founder of Bulldog Tours, to learn more about the tours they offer and how it all began. Their website is bulldogtours.com, and here is that conversation now. Tell me the story of Bulldog Tours and how you got it going and how it became what it is today.
Sure. Well, native. I was born here a long time ago, and I've always loved my hometown and just been infatuated with it for a variety of reasons. And when I graduated from college in 1991, being a tour guide, I gave carriage tours. It was my first job ever and absolutely loved it. But felt compelled to go get the real job, did that, and about 10 years later, it just happened. I was like, I really want to start my own tour company, just something I'm proud of. And the goal was to help from day one. I wanted to help preserve one of my favorite buildings in Charleston. It's the old Exchange building. And I went and met with him. I was like, I've got this crazy idea. I'll start a tour company up. I'll give you a third of the proceeds. I just want to help raise money for preservation. I have no idea if this will work. I've never owned or operated a company that by myself, but we'll give it a shot. And fast forward 24 years later, we've raised millions of dollars to help preserve that building, and we've made similar partnerships with other historical landmarks in town. And it's kind of our business model of sustainable tourism, and I think we're right at about $7 million that we've helped raise to preserve these local landmarks. And love what we do. We do a variety of history, food, ghosts, cocktail tours. We do some custom stuff for different corporate groups, and we have a very fun job that we take really seriously and love showcasing my hometown.
Well, it sounds like I can tell in your voice. And the preservation part, that's a big part of it, isn't it? And I guess you could say you were sustainable before sustainable became cool.
Perhaps, and I didn't even know that term when I started this. I just thought that I was doing the right thing and kind of doing something neat. I wasn't in this for the money. I really never have been. Had a really good job when I started all this up, and I was like, I don't care if this thing makes money or loses money. It's actually okay if it lost money for the tax write-off reasons. But just kind of kept the focus on like building something that I was really proud of, something that helped make Charleston better. And yes, turns out there is a term for it, and it's called sustainable tourism.
Mm-hmm. See, you were there before it became cool. So tell me about the specific tours. You kind of glazed over some of the tours you offer, but break down. We're going to go, I believe, on 2 separate tours, I understand, doing a food one and a historic stroll.
Correct. So y'all are going to do, your wife and yourself do the Charleston Strolls Walk with History tour. And it's a 2-hour walking tour. Charleston's very flat and very easy to navigate. And you're going to see the best of Charleston's historic district. And that includes Rainbow Row and the French Quarter and the Battery, and talk about the historic homes, the Revolutionary War. You're going to see historic churches, historic homes, gardens. Just learn a little bit about the culture of our city and how we came to be, and you're going to be in a magical neighborhood. It's called South Abroad, and that's where the finest homes in Charleston, and many consider in the country, to be located, and you're going to be blown away. I don't know if you've ever been to Charleston before, Randy, but it is a special place, and the history is fascinating. For United States standards, we're old. We were founded in 1670, but it's all relative. We have visitors from, let's say Germany or England or France, and we're babies compared to them. But this was all started by King Charles II, and I think we've done an amazing job of staying in touch with our history, and preservation has been a really big part of Charleston's success and a big part of our community for a very long time. We had the first preservation society, the first preservation laws in the United States, and it shows. So you're going to do this tour today, and then at some point on your visit, you're going to do a food tour, which was actually one of the first food tour operators in the country. They had just kind of started up. There was a handful of food tours. I was like, if there's any food story that needs to be told in the United States, it's Charleston, and it's because we have a very unique story, a very unique flavor, a very unique cuisine. It's called Low Country cuisine, and kind of the synopsis is the enslaved Africans that were here, they took the food and the recipes and the passion for foods from the British settlers, from the French Huguenots, from the Irish and the Scottish, and people from all over the world, and took the recipes and the ingredients and the food passion from the Native Americans, and they kind of blended it all together and came up with what we know as Low Country cuisine today. And I thought it was a very important story to tell, and we have amazing restaurants in town. Charleston, pretty warm climate, so we can grow stuff here almost year-round, and you can taste that in the food that we eat. There's a good chance that the vegetables on your plate were probably in the ground just a few days prior, and we're located right on the Atlantic Ocean, so we've got the waterways, we've got creeks and rivers and Charleston Harbor and the Atlantic Ocean, so access to incredible seafood, so it's very fresh. And then a lot of local restaurants, they partner with local regional farms to provide, fresh poultry and beef and everything else that goes into making our dishes magical. But yeah, you're going to eat a lot while you're in town, but the good news, Randy, is
you walk a lot.
You're going to walk a lot, right? So it's actually a calorie deficit, so you're going to go home and be very surprised that, wow, you came back healthier than you before you came here. So, right.
You talk about storytelling. It seems to me that what makes a tour is the guide and the stories that they tell. So tell me a bit about who you have taking people on their tours.
Sure, that's a great question. Charleston, we've always prided ourselves in having amazing tour guides. In fact, for the longest period of time, we're one of the first cities, or maybe the first city that had required a license. You had to have a license to be a tour guide. It was the hardest tour guide test in America. Hands down the hardest test I've ever taken in my life.
Did you pass the first time?
I did pass the first time. And it's funny because I'm not a hyper academic person, but our history is pretty tangible. You can read about a house and the architecture, whatever stories are behind it, and you can stand right in front of where it all happened. And it just really clicked with my brain, and I'm more of a visual learner. Yeah. And so I was fascinated with Charleston history. I'd never really aced my history exams in college, but when it came to Charleston history, it was easy for me to understand, and then I would rely on friends and family members like, hey, do y'all know the story about whatever house or whatever person, and got lots of great insight. But the powers to be declared a few years ago that we can no longer require tour guide licensing, but that program still exists, and we do require our tour guides at Bulldog Tours to be licensed. We have quite a few, many of them experts in whatever subject matter, whether it's gardens or Civil War, Revolutionary War, architecture, what have you. Again, we have a very fun job that we take seriously. Bulldog Tours, we probably spend more money and time on training than any tour company in town. We want our guides to be the very best, and I know your tour guide today is Nancy Smalls. She has been a tour guide for decades in this town, and she could easily write an encyclopedia about Charleston, so y'all are in for a treat.
Is your first tour that you ever did when you first started the company, is it still the same tour? Or what I'm trying to say, have you managed to keep certain tours because they're popular?
Absolutely. The first tour I ever did was actually on a horse and carriage, but it was the stories that I told that very day. It would have been in June of 1991. Are still some of the same stories that I tell today. And this tour here, I love the history and the food tours. Ghost tours are entertaining to me. I've never been a huge ghost person, although I love ghost stories. I love getting kids excited because it's a blend of history and a blend of spooky as well, and this time of year is kind of fun because Halloween and everything, so we certainly do a lot of kids and families on the spooky ghost tours, but they're very entertaining, and we take folks to places that we're pretty positive are legitimately haunted. We have access to a pre-revolutionary dungeon, we have access to the oldest graveyard in Charleston, we have access to the old city jail, which house some of Charleston's most infamous criminals. And then we also do tours at the USS Yorktown. It's a World War II aircraft carrier out in our harbor at Patriots Point, and that place, the ship is fascinating, and it's filled with very compelling stories that will make, I don't care if you're a skeptic, many folks come on the tour like, ghost, it's just, whatever, but they leave thinking, oh my God, that was very thought-provoking, yeah.
I guess that over time, have you found new stories that you didn't know 20 years ago? I guess it's always an evolving thing, isn't it?
That's a great question. It really is evolving, and history's in the past, obviously, but there's always people gain insight. There'll be a book that none of us had discovered that somebody will find in an old library or their aunt's basement or something like that, and like, wow, we never knew this fact about whatever the house, the landmark, the building is. So it's kind of always evolving, and I'm as excited about Charleston history and food and ghosts today as I was 30 years ago. It just, Charleston gets better and better. The food here is second to none. The gardens are spectacular. It's very well preserved, and one thing I love about it is the scale of Charleston. You can just park your car here if you bring a car, and you get out and walk wherever you want to go. Walk to the restaurants, walk to the museum homes, to the art galleries, to the where you're going to lunch, breakfast, your hotel, and that makes for kind of a neat experience.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite spot or a favorite story? And I know we're probably short for time because our tour's almost leaving, but
that's a great question. It kind of changes day by day. When I was young, I loved all the kind of true crime and the gritty stories about Charleston during Prohibition and all that stuff. And then, I don't know, there was a period of my life where I loved the gardens and just kind of submerged myself into learning everything about all the landscape architects that helped make Charleston Gardens what they are today. And then there was a period where I loved the architecture. There's something new every day. I walk the same streets day after day, year after year, and it seems like I'm always noticing a detail that, like, wow, I didn't know that existed. As far as one single story, no, I kind of just get lost in, and this sounds hokey coming from a tour guide, but just really the magic, the charm, the uniqueness of Charleston. When you walk these streets and these alleyways, you can sense that the historical weight that surrounds you. You know that these houses had been, many of them, some of the same families that have been there for 8, 9 generations at this point. They're still living in the same houses as their forefathers did. And then the role that Charleston had in our country's history, whether the first shots of the Civil War or, one of the first major victories of the Revolutionary War was all here. And knowing that, wow, these are where some of our, textbook heroes, George Washington, he walked these streets, or Francis Marion, the founder of guerrilla warfare, who was, they've made movies and TV shows about that guy. And just to be surrounded by history and beauty and just ever-changing landscapes, I feel very fortunate to do what I do.
Mm-hmm. John Laverne is the founder, boss man of Bulldog Tours. You can find all their tours on their website, bulldogtours.com. I do appreciate your time. Anything you want to add?
Randy, I appreciate you and your wife coming to visit us. I know y'all came a long way from here, but just glad that you ended up in Charleston, and hope you come back.